Hey everyone! This video is all about how to make some amazing Thanksgiving sides. I'm using some of my grandmother's favorite recipes. If you want to know more about how to make a great Thanksgiving turkey, I already did that in a separate video, which I'll link below. And this video is going to detail each of the sides I prepared for our table. And here you can see me setting a more simplistic table setting for our family, just keeping it simple and enjoying the little things. And really making it about the family around the table. So let's go over the menu of what we're preparing today. Thanksgiving meal. The first thing you need to think about is what all you're making. And so I had a plan, and like I said, I'm making my grandmother's dishes. So we are going to be making today garlic smashed potatoes. Using red potatoes, so I've got my pile of them right here. We're going to be making stuffing using 2 bags Pepperidge Farms stuffing mix, the cornbread one, and I mix it with the herb seasoned one. So this is how my grandma did it. That's how we're doing it. We're going to make an amazing ooey gooey mac and cheese because my kids absolutely love that. Just using Kroger brand macaroni. And we're gonna be making, of course, our turkey. And then I've got a cranberry relish we're gonna make from scratch to go in that. And then finally some rolls. So my mom and grandmother always swore by the Sister Schubert's rolls. So those, can't make everything from scratch, right? Those are frozen in the freezer. They just take a few minutes to pop in. We'll put those in at the end. Oh, and I almost forgot green beans. So we are using canned green beans. Hold on, let me find those. Pull those out. So this is another one of my grandmother's things. She always loved Green Giant or the Allen green beans. Again, I could have done these fresh. I could have sliced them up. But on Thanksgiving, you're really gonna have to prioritize where you have time. And as a busy mom of 3, I need to put the effort where it really needs to shine on this holiday and not so much in these. So we're gonna have canned, and that is our menu. So I'm gonna get started. What I'm doing right now, and my best piece of advice, is to prep as much as you can. So like right now, I'm getting the water boiling for my noodles. I'm going to start cutting up these potatoes into just smaller little chunks. I'm leaving the skin on because I actually really love the skin on these in the mashed potatoes. Let's see, other prep. I'm going to make the butter that we're gonna smear all over the turkey. It's gonna be like an herb butter with rosemary and thyme in it, and a little bit of salt and garlic. And so to prep for that, I put these out so that they're at room temperature. My grandmother used to always swear by Land O'Lakes butter. She said everything had to be Land O'Lakes. But unfortunately, she passed away before I could expose her to the Kerrygold butter, which our family loves, and we get it from Costco. So I'm gonna be using this one today. And like I said, she's inspiring me. I'm gonna put a few of my own spins on things. A pot of beautiful potatoes prepped, and I'm gonna add water. I'm gonna just till I can cover them. And I'm gonna add salt to it, a generous helping. And then I'm gonna set this aside, and I'm not gonna actually boil it until it's closer to time when everybody's here. So I strongly suggest prepping stuff like this ahead of time. It's those little things. This will just be ready to go. All right. So this was my casserole tray. Again, no shame if you don't have all the pans you need for such a big dinner. It's once a year, so I'm not gonna go out and buy an extra pan just for this to keep and have to store. I'm just gonna use this one. So I am gonna go ahead and get these noodles in here. Gonna kind of mix the butter around in them so they don't stick. Mac and cheese now. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take about half, a little less than half of one of these things of Kerrygold butter. Mine is softened at room temperature now, so it's not gonna be it's gonna be a little more mushy. I'm just gonna kind of slice it up, put little slices throughout this thing. My macaroni's still a hair warm, which is good. It might help that butter melt. but we really kind of want it to melt. This is going to go in the oven. So this is a baked mac and cheese. And we want it to melt in the oven. So I've thoroughly washed my hands, just so you guys know. I'm just kind of smushing these pats of butter down in here, getting all the noodles kind of exposed to it. All right. The next thing we need is salt, pepper, and Velveeta. And salt here. I'm just gonna do like a generous sprinkle, maybe a hair more throughout there. And I'm gonna do my pepper. I love pepper, so I'll just kind of disguise that in there. For kids, they won't know. Helps everything have that really good kick to it, you know. Ooh, that butter's melting nicely, just with that residual heat. Okay, and the last 3 things you add to this is you take about like a third, I guess, of a thing of Velveeta cheese, and you're gonna slice it up in it. Then you're also gonna mix cheddar cheese, like shredded cheddar cheese, just on the top. And then you're gonna pour a little milk as well so it doesn't dry out in the oven. So I'm gonna like Kroger brand, or no, this is Aldi's brand. Mild cheddar, it's gonna go on top. I've got original Velveeta. And then my grandma always said whole milk, use whole milk. So today we're not holding back on any of that. I'm gonna need a little more room here. And this area is getting crowded. So that's hard too. If you're trying to do Thanksgiving and you don't have a lot of counter space, I feel for you. That can be very difficult. That's where you'll have to make use of like a table or pace things out. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing. I've got my Velveeta. I'm gonna open it up, or get a knife and just help myself. These are my favorite knives. They're the IKEA kind, and I just love these. I chop my veggies with them. They're super sharp and nice. So I think because we're doing a special celebration, it's gonna be about half, I think. Maybe more. I feel like my grandma did more. I'll consult my mom before I bake it. Make sure. Okay, so all I'm doing is I'm just cutting them into like the cubes, and then I'm kind of cutting them into little smaller chunks. Just little chunks that you can spread like throughout your dish. So like little squared, kind of like this, okay? And I'm gonna go, just kind of go plop those in to the macaroni. Yeah, actually I think a half is fine, because my grandma, when she used to make it for large gatherings, I think she would use a whole. And so, honestly, I probably could use a little less than half, but whatever. We're gonna make it work. All right, so we're just gonna stick those in there. Nice ooey gooey cheesy mac and cheese. Velveeta was always her hack. All right, so all of that's just put in there. Now I'm gonna pour the milk and sprinkle the cheddar cheese. You don't want it like too full. That just made a mess. She always said it's just like a splash of milk. So I don't really have an exact measurement. You just kind of eye, maybe it's like, just to make sure everything's a little bit moist, and you don't want it too milky either. That's probably plenty. Okay. And then the final thing, clean up my mess, is the cheddar cheese. So we're just gonna sprinkle this over the top of the whole thing. That's where you get that ooey gooey melted kind of thing. You could push some of it down in it if you want, you know, to kind of spread throughout the dish, that extra cheddar goodness. And then put what remains on that top layer. All right, and this is gonna go in the oven covered for about 30 minutes. Maybe less, honestly. Well, no, probably about 30 minutes. You just have to watch it till it's hot and bubbly, okay? Because everything's cooked in it. You just want the cheese melted, and it's at 350. So to kind of use up what's left here. Doesn't that look lovely? So much orange. See my so much orange. So 350 for about 30 minutes. Just watch it till it's hot and bubbly. I'm going to cover this with foil, and I'm actually going to set it in my fridge till I'm ready to bake it. With potatoes and mac and cheese prepped, we are now ready to make our stuffing. So I'm taking both bags of the Pepperidge Farms, the cornbread mix, and the herb seasoned mix, and I'm mixing them together in a pan. Now, I ended up later switching this to one of my glass pans because it was a little bit bigger and this was a little full, and I still had to take some of this mixture out because I wanted a lot of room left for the moisture and the extra ingredients I would add. Next step is to cut up your onion and celery and get ready to saute it. Next step, I'm prepping the ingredients that will go in the stuffing. So you put about a little less than half a stick of butter in your pan. You put it on medium heat and you chop up your celery and your onions. You're gonna add those to the pan. Make sure they're pretty finely chopped, depending on how thick you like them in your stuffing. And you're gonna add salt and pepper. Once those have sauteed a little bit and they're nice and kind of translucent, you're going to then add a can of chicken broth to the pan and bring it to a sort of a simmer. And then you're gonna pour the whole thing into your stuffing. You're gonna use a spoon to mix it around, and you're gonna add any additional ingredients. For me, I love pecans, I love craisins in my stuffing. So I added all those after the fact to the dry ingredients. So you'll see that here in just a moment. And just make sure that you have plenty of liquid. You can never have too much, really, because you're still going to bake this. So when you pour the hot mixture in, you're going to add an additional 2 cans. I added 3 cans of chicken broth. I kind of eyed it because you want to have good moisture everywhere in your stuffing so that it's ready later when you cover it and bake it. You'll bake this in the oven at 350 degrees for about 20 to 30 minutes, and you're gonna keep it covered with foil, and it will make your house smell incredible. This really, besides the turkey, is one of the most Thanksgiving associated smells that I have. The mixture's ready. If you kind of look over here on the stove, I've got, I poured 2 cans of the chicken broth in here, and I've got the celery, the onions are sauteed in butter. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this to kind of safely scoop that mixture out a little bit at a time, and I'm gonna pour it over the casserole. So I've got the dried stuffing mixture in here, and yes, I did take some of it out because it was so full. I don't know, I didn't see it all fitting in here. The other thing I did is I did add a couple. I personally love nuts. I love pecans, and then I had like this omega mix from like Costco trail mix. So I picked out some of the cranberries and I chopped up a couple pecans in this just to make it colorful. So I'm gonna pour the other mixture over this, put a covering on it, foil, and put it in the oven at 350 for the 30 to 40 minutes. Sometimes stuffing takes longer. For 4 cans of the chicken broth. So I'm gonna pour that in there. And mix it. All my stuffing parts. Oh man, it's looking good though. It's smelling like my grandmother's used to smell. And I love that. I'm also going to add a little bit more butter because my grandma always said butter makes everything good. So it's currently got 4 cans of chicken broth. Make it nice and moist. Soaking up all those crumbs. Man, it smells good. And we'll add a little bit of butter that I'll just kind of shove down in the mixture. But I wanted to spread out evenly the carrots and the onion. That looks amazing. Just kind of keep mixing it in. Make it nice and moist. Really, really good. Okay. Look at that beautiful stuffing. We're gonna put butter in that. Thing we're gonna be making is the cranberry relish, and we're making that homemade. So all you need for this recipe is an orange, honey, so I've got my giant Costco thing, and apple cider, and cranberries, of course. And the apple cider, you just need like a half cup, so you don't need a huge thing. I'm gonna let my kids drink the rest for fun during the meal. And you also need a half cup of honey. You're going to be zesting your orange into the sauce, so you need a zester. I don't know what these are called. And you're going to also be squeezing the juice of the orange into the sauce, so you'll cut it in half and squeeze that out. So you may want like a juicer to help you with that. And then I've got a big bag of fresh cranberries from Ocean Spray, but I only need 12 ounces, 12 ounces of these. This is like a 2-pound bag, so I'm gonna kind of do half of it or a little under half. And cutting this in half, but I'm also gonna zest it. I'm gonna zest the skin of it, and I washed it really good. It said you don't want the white part, so stop when you kind of get to the white part because it can be really bitter. So we're just gonna keep zesting this fresh peel just to add that orange flavor into our cranberry relish. So I'm gonna juice our orange. Just putting it on a juicer. Hi, Eden. Are you helping me make my sauce? All right. Oh no, I just dumped it out. Mommy spilled it. All down the cabinets too. Okay, let's try that again. Pour that juice in there. We're gonna pour half a cup of apple cider. And we're gonna do half cup of honey. Now the recipe I'm using, it doesn't call for this extra step, but I saw at our Aldi's, this is gonna take a minute, this sweet marmalade, orange marmalade. And I think I'm gonna add that to our sauce, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a little less honey to make up for that extra sweetness. But I thought the orange would complement this really well. So I'm going just a little bit below that half cup line. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a big spoon and I'm gonna put a heaping scoop of this marmalade in here. That looks lovely. Look how beautiful that is. And then I'm gonna use that spoon and scoop out my honey. And then I'm just gonna mix all of this up and bring it to a simmer. And once it's simmered for a little bit, we'll have this lovely relish to a simmer till it's kind of doing this. And what'll happen is the cranberries will start popping. And you just kind of use your spatula or your spoon to push them down. And then I'm just going to kind of let it simmer for a few more minutes, and then I'm going to take it off to cool. I kind of want kind of that mushed texture to go on our stuff. So for the gravy part, you consult your mama. My mom's making the gravy, and here's how you do that.
That's enough gravy, don't you?
Oh,
Yeah.
So what are you doing for the gravy?
I took a little bit of this broth, 1 can of this, 1 bouillon, and then I am going to mix with a little bit of flour and hot water, and we'll bring it to a beautiful color.
So
We're
this
bringing
is the
it to
gravy.
a good boil, and it needs a little bit of butter.
So she pulled broth from the leftover pan of the turkey, which we pulled out. So now we're able to make the gravy. So you're boiling it.
Good
Leftover
boil.
broth mixed with, chicken broth.
A little chicken broth.
And a
little
chicken broth.
Chicken bouillon.
A bouillon cube, like these.
And
She's adding a stick of butter.
well, about half stick.
Oh, half a stick.
If
And
it-
then how much flour? About a half cup?
It will be 1/2 cup of flour mixed with hot water.
Okay.
A little slurry I made with about 1/2 cup of flour and hot water. I've got my boiling broth and a little chicken broth, and I'm using a strainer so we don't have any lumps. Pouring it through. It's lightening up our gravy, thickening our gravy. As you can see, look how pretty that's looking. A little bit more. And actually, we'll turn it down, and it will thicken on its own. That is a beautiful gravy right there. Look at that. Add a little pepper. All right, see, we leave the lumps out. That's why you need a strainer.
And that's a wrap with all of our Thanksgiving sides. They turned out beautiful. You can see the Sister Schubert's rolls there. Sorry, not homemade. I also forgot to tell you that the green beans, I just emptied those cans into a pot, added an onion, quartered it, some salt and pepper, and there you go. My kids were chowing down and they loved it. And so I wish all of you out there a wonderful, happy Thanksgiving from our family to yours. May you find gratitude and thankfulness today for all the things God has given you. Bye, everybody. And until next time.